Alles für unsere Heimat, alles für Sachsen-Anhalt, alles für Deutschland.
This is one of Germany's most influential far-right politicians, Björn Höcke. In 2024, he was convicted for using that ban Nazi slogan. Today, his party, Alternative for Deutschland, or AfD, is the second largest in the country. But the party has a major problem. Germany's domestic intelligence agency has classified it as a right-wing extremist organization, and that confronts the country with an extraordinary question. Should Germany use the powers built into its constitution to ban one of its most popular political parties? Now, as the AfD surges towards major state election wins, Germany is considering the ultimate legal move. Here are 3 ways Germany is trying to shut down the AfD and why that strategy might backfire. The country has 3 lines of defense. The first is political. It's called the firewall.
So the firewall, or Brandmauer as it's known in German, is essentially a convention that the other parties will not work with the AfD. There'll be people who say the Brandmauer's job is to keep the AfD out of power. But then the counter-argument to that is the Brandmauer is doing a terrible job of containing support for the AfD.
Support may actually be increasing
Because so many voters have the perception that the old parties, as the AfD calls them, are just colluding and acting like a cartel.
The firewall also only works if all parties agree not to collaborate with the AfD. In early 2025, the centre-right CDU pushed a migration motion through Parliament with AfD support. It triggered outrage, but also showed the AfD didn't need to be in government to shape politics.
The Alternative für Deutschland, or AfD, were founded in 2013.
It was mainly a Eurosceptic party, but in 2015, everything changed.
In one day this past week, Germany took in 17,000 refugees. In one day.
The refugee crisis transformed German politics, and it transformed the AfD.
There was no other political party that was willing to dirty its hands with anti-migrant rhetoric at the time.
Burkas, Kopftuchmädchen und alimentierte Messermänner und sonstige Taugenichtse werden unseren Wohlstand, das Wirtschaftswachstum und vor allem den Sozialstaat.
And it gained traction with voters. The AfD entered the Bundestag for the first time in September 2017. It won almost 13% of the vote and became the largest opposition party. Suddenly, it wasn't a protest movement anymore. It was a national political force that wasn't afraid of controversy.
Wir Deutschen, also unser Volk, sind das einzige Volk der Welt, das sich ein Denkmal der Schande in das Herz seiner Hauptstadt gepflanzt hat.
The controversy is absolutely deliberate.
Every scandal that looked like it should destroy the party only seemed to make it stronger.
They play with Nazi language and Nazi gestures. It's a way of trying to defuse and make ridiculous this idea that this is 1933 all over again.
Germany's domestic intelligence agency began investigating the party, and yet the AfD's polling barely flinched.
What makes the AfD stand out among the other parties of the far right in Europe is that at least parts of the AfD are being considered right-wing extremists. And we know that other parties that we can position the far right have tried to distance themselves from right-wing extremists.
But to actually stop the AfD, Germany would have to escalate to line of defense number 2, the Constitutional Court. After Nazism, West Germany built what it calls a militant democracy, a democracy with the legal power to ban parties that threaten the constitutional order. Its domestic intelligence agency openly monitors extremist parties, but it's the Constitutional Court that can ban them outright.
The Constitutional Court is extremely reluctant when it comes to banning political parties.
It has happened twice, a neo-Nazi party in 1952 and the communists in 1956.
The party must be anti-constitutional, 1, to be banned, and that is important in the ruling of the court, it must also have the potential to realize hurting the Constitution, destroying the very pillars of the constitution. What does potential mean? It means that it has to be electorally strong enough.
In May 2025, Germany's domestic intelligence agency classified the AfD as confirmed right-wing extremist.
If the Constitutional Court ruled that the AfD was anti-constitutional, then I'm quite sure it would also rule that it has the potential, because now it is being presented in, I believe, every state parliament and in the Bundestag.
And here lies the dilemma.
You just cannot shut down a party that is on 20, 29, 30% of the national vote.
There might be a social fallout. There might even be a fallout with regard to political violence.
So who are these voters, and what do they actually want?
I would say the average AfD voter is middle-aged, male, white. He is driven by a strong distrust in politics overall. And he has strong economic grievances. He believes that the country overall is in economic decline, and people like him could be next, if you will. He perceives the modernization of society as a threat to his own identity.
A shrinking economy, increased energy costs, and immigration are common grievances for AfD voters.
Historically, the assumption has been that a voter who is angry with the establishment will turn to an anti-establishment party as a way of saying, this is a yellow card, and if you don't watch out, then there could be more to come. We are way beyond that stage. The AfD has led a lot of its voters to actually like what it stands for.
And nowhere is that feeling stronger than in the former East Germany. Parties in the region have historically had weaker links to society. The AfD has worked hard to fill that gap.
Parties are not just starships that you can vote for. The strategy of the far right, in part, is to be present in civil society.
The AfD has embedded itself in local communities, clubs and associations, particularly in those regions that feel overlooked by Berlin. That leaves Germany with its third and final line of defense: winning back the voters. Chancellor Friedrich Merz came to power promising to halve the AfD support, but within months, the party was polling ahead of his own.
The rise of the AfD is reversible. What you would fundamentally need is the ability to restore economic growth in a way that the average voter will notice in their bank account. And you would also need to rebuild their trust in the state.
Successive German governments have tried to respond by tightening controls at the country's borders, trying to speed up deportations and approving a €500 billion fund to modernize its infrastructure and revive the economy. But they still need to convince voters that those measures are working. And if they can't, the pressure on Germany's political system will only increase. This September, we'll get the first real indication. Voters head to the polls in 3 German states: in Berlin, in Mecklenburg-West Pomerania, and in Saxony-Anhalt, where the AfD could become the largest party. If the AfD governed Saxony-Anhalt, it would use the state as a showcase for how it believes Germany should be run.
First steps would be things like completely cutting off the public broadcaster, the German version of the local BBC. It would involve ceasing to fund the Lost Art Centre, which is charged with restoring and identifying cultural assets that were stripped from Jews under the Third Reich. It would set a much more kind of patriotic education policy. It would reform history teaching.
Germany built a democracy designed to stop extremism ever taking power again. This September, we'll find out whether that system is still strong enough.